the Arab Empire and its successors, in particular, the Umayyad and Abbasid Caliphate. The death of Muhammad presented his followers with a dilemma. Although Muhammad had not claimed divine qualities, Muslims saw no separation between political and religious authority. Submission to the will of Allah meant submission to his prophet Muhammad. According to the Quran, whoso obeyeth the messenger obeyeth Allah. Muhammad's charismatic authority and political skills indeed had been at the heart of his success, but Muslims have never agreed on whether he named a successor. And although he had several daughters, he left no sons. In the male-oriented society of his day, in the patristic order, who would lead the community of the faithful? Shortly after Muhammad's death, a number of his closest followers selected Abu Bakr, a wealthy merchant from Medina who was Muhammad's father-in-law and one of his first supporters, as Caliph, or Khalifa, literally successor. The Caliph was the temporal leader of the Islamic community and was also considered in general terms to be a religious leader, or imam. Under Abu Bakr's prudent leadership, the movement succeeded in suppressing factional tendencies among some of the Bedouin tribes in the peninsula and beginning to direct its attention to wider fields. Muhammad had used the Arabic tribal custom of the razzia, or raid, in the struggle against his enemies. Now his successors turned to the same custom to expand the authority of the movement. And again, he was a caliph, which comes from the word khalifa, which means successor. In recent discussions of the expansion of Islam after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the Arabic term jihad has often been used to describe the process. The word appears in the Quran on several occasions, and it also appears to have had multiple meanings, much as the word crusade does in English. Sometimes jihad is used in the sense of striving in the way of the Lord, as a means of exhorting believers to struggle against the evil within themselves. In other cases, however, it has been translated as holy war, justifying hostile action against the enemies of Islam. Of course, many terrorist movements of the present day clearly view jihad in the latter sense, that of an outer jihad instead of an inner one. An inner war is an outward one. Because the word is so heavily laden with emotional connotations, it clearly should be used sparingly and with care. Concerning the creation of an empire, once the Arabs had become unified under Muhammad's successor, they began directing against neighboring peoples the energy that they had formerly directed against each other. The Byzantine and Sasanian empires were the first to feel the strength of the newly united Arabs, now aroused to a peak of zeal by their common faith of Islam. And so the Byzantine and Sasanian empires had felt the repercussions of the rise of Islam. In 636, the Muslims defeated the Byzantine army on the Yarmouk River, north of the Dead Sea. 4 years later, after the Battle of the Yarmouk, they took possession of the Byzantine province of Syria. In the year 640, the Arabs conquered Cairo. To the east, the Arabs defeated a Persian force in 637, and then went on to conquer the entire empire of the Sassanids by 650. In the meantime, however, the rest of Egypt and other areas of North Africa were also brought under Arab authority. What accounts for this rapid expansion of the Arabs after the rise of Islam in the early 17th century? Or 7th century, my apologies. So what accounts for the rapid expansion of the Arabs after the rise of Islam in the early 7th century? Historians have proposed various explanations, ranging from a prolonged drought on the Arabian Peninsula to the desire of Islam's leaders to channel the energies of their new converts. Another hypothesis is that the expansion was deliberately planned by the ruling elites in Mecca to extend their trade routes and bring surplus-producing regions under their control. But whatever the case, Islam's ability to unify the Bedouin peoples certainly played a significant role, although the Arab triumph was made substantially easier by the ongoing conflict between the Byzantine and Persian empires. which had weakened both powers. The strength and mobility of the Bedouin armies, with their much vaunted cavalry, should not be overlooked. Led by a series of brilliant generals, the Arabs assembled a large, highly motivated army whose valor was enhanced by the belief that Muslim warriors who died in battle were guaranteed a place in paradise. Once the army had prevailed, Arab administration of the conquered areas was generally tolerant. Sometimes, due to a shortage of trained Arab administrators, government was left to local officials. Conversion to Islam was generally voluntary in accordance with the maxim in the Quran that, quote, there shall be no compulsion in religion, end quote. Those who chose not to convert, however, were required to submit to Muslim rule and to pay a head tax in return for exemption from military service, which indeed was required of all Muslim males. Under such conditions, the local populations often regarded Arab rule as preferable to Byzantine rule, or even that of the Sassanid dynasty in Persia. And furthermore, the simple and direct character of the new religion and its egalitarian qualities, for example, all people were viewed as equal in the eyes of Allah, these were very likely attractive to people throughout the region. And then we have the rise of the Umayyads. The main challenge to the growing empire came from within. Some of Muhammad's followers had not agreed with the selection of Abu Bakr as the first caliph and promoted the candidacy of caliph to Ali, or Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, as an alternative. Ali's claim was ignored by other leaders, however, and after Abu Bakr's death, the office passed to Umar, another of Muhammad's followers. In 656, Umar's successor, Uthman, was assassinated, and Ali, who happened to be in Medina at the time, was finally selected for the position. But according to tradition, Ali's rivals were convinced that he had been implicated in the death of his predecessor, and a factional struggle broke out within the Muslim leadership. In 661, Ali himself was assassinated as well, and Muawiyah, the governor of Syria and one of Ali's chief rivals, replaced him in office. Umayyad thereupon made the Caliphate, hereditary in his own family. He called it the Umayyads, who were a branch of the Qurashi clan. The new Caliphate, with its capital at Damascus, remained in power for nearly a century. The factional struggle within Islam did not bring an end to Arab expansion. At the beginning of the 8th century, new attacks were launched at both the western and the eastern ends of the Mediterranean world. Arab armies advanced across North Africa and conquered the Berbers, a primarily pastoral people living along the Mediterranean coast and in the mountains of the interior. Muslim fleets attacked several islands as well in the eastern Mediterranean. Then, in the year 710, Arab forces supplemented by Berber allies under their commander Tawfiq crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and occupied southern Spain. The Visigothic kingdom, already weakened by internecine warfare, quickly collapsed, and by 725, most of the Iberian Peninsula had become a Muslim state, with its center in Andalusia. 7 years later, an Arab force making a foray into southern France was defeated by the army of Charles Martel between Tours and Poitiers. For the first time, Arab horsemen had met their match in a disciplined Frankish infantry. Some historians think that internal exhaustion would have forced the invaders to retreat even without their defeat at the hands of the Franks, the Germanic people who had established a kingdom in what is now France. And as you know, Charles Martel and, of course, the ancestor, or not too far removed from that of Charlemagne, Charlemagne was neither French nor German, but in any event, the Battle of Tours or Poitiers would be the high water mark of Arab expansion in Europe. In the meantime, however, in the year 717, another Muslim force had launched an attack on Constantinople with the hope of destroying the Byzantine Empire. But the Byzantines used of Greek fire, a petroleum-based compound containing quicklime and sulfur, destroyed the Muslim fleet and thereby saving the empire and, indirectly, Christian Europe. since the fall of Constantinople, would have opened the door to an Arab invasion of Eastern Europe. The Byzantine Empire and Islam now established an uneasy frontier in southern Asia Minor. Arab power also extended to the east, consolidating Islamic rule in Mesopotamia and Persia, and also northward into Central Asia. But factional disputes continued to plague the empire. Many Muslim of the non-Arab extraction resented the favoritism towards Arabs shown by local administrators. In some cases, resentment led to revolt, as in Iraq, where Ali's second son, Hussein, disputed the legitimacy of the Umayyads and incited his supporters to be known in the future as Shiites, from the Arabic phrase Shiite Ali, or partisans of Ali, to rise up against Umayyad rule in 680. Hussein's forces were defeated, and with the death of Hussein in the battle, a schism between Shiite and Sunni, usually translated Orthodox Muslims, had been created that still continues to this present day. Umayyad rule created resentment, not only in Mesopotamia, but also in North Africa as well, where Berber resistance continued, especially in the mountainous areas south of the coastal plains. According to critics, the Umayyads may have contributed to their own demise by their decadent behavior. One caliph allegedly swam in a pool of wine and then imbibed enough of the contents to lower the level significantly. Finally, in 750, a revolt led by Abu al-Abbas, a descendant of Muhammad's uncle, led to the overthrow of the Umayyads and the establishment of the Abbasid dynasty that ruled from 750 to 1258 in what is now known as Iraq. Next, we will read about the Abbasid dynasty, which lasted for about 500 years, 5 centuries. And then after Abbasid rule, the Abbasid Caliphate, at the height of its power, we will move to its instability and division before moving on to the Seljuk Turks and the Crusades.